What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the Hot Seat. We got a full panel in the building on tonight. What's going on, social media family? Super excited. We got everybody in the building on tonight. We got a phenomenal topic in store for you tonight, guys, about relationships. We got some absolutely bad bosses in the building. So good to see a lot of my friends able to join us and hang out with us on tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get into this conversation because it's going to get juicy. Very, very juicy. And it's going to be a great topic on tonight. So welcome in. As you're coming in, go ahead, share. Let all your friends, your neighbors, your relatives know that we're in the hot seat and we're getting ready to have a dynamic relationship conversation. I got Jason Williams in the building. He's a third-time best-selling international author, a musician, a pastor. He's all these phenomenal things, a husband, a father, just a great guy all around. I've got Pastor Linwood and Lady Deshawn Bill in the building on tonight. They don't go by Pastor and Lady. They just Linwood and Deshawn for tonight. But I want you to know what they do on Sundays and Tuesday nights and Thursdays and all these other days when they bless in the Lord. They're a phenomenal couple out of Detroit, Michigan, doing some great things to change that city overall. Super excited that they are in my hometown making some great changes. I got Lady Victoria in the building. She is an etiquette coach doing some phenomenal things. She has multiple best-selling projects and she's also a writing strategist. And last but certainly not least, I have one of my dearest friends, a great mentor of mine, Dr. Kai Randolph is in the house. She does so many amazing things. She is the founder of a couple of businesses. But right now, she's focusing on helping women to generate more wealth. So she is the founder of She Builds Wealth. So super excited to have a full panel in the house on tonight. So welcome in. We're getting ready to get into a very interesting conversation on tonight. And you're going to hear from each and every one of these individuals. They are not only familiar with this, they can relate to it. Some of them have actually experienced it firsthand. As far as relationships are concerned. And we're going to have a great conversation surrounding this topic. So tonight, we're going to be talking about a sticky subject. So if you're sensitive, you might want to just buckle in your seatbelt, all right? And stay for the whole ride, honey, because it's going to get good. But if your kids do not like the person that you are dating, is that a reason to stop seeing them? If your children don't like the person that you're dating, is that a reason to stop seeing them? If so, why? If not, why not? We're going to start off, we're going to kick the ball with Lady Deshawn and Reverend Linwood over here tonight because they actually have a blended family. Jason Williams has a blended family as well. But we're going to start off with them and we're going to see what they think about this kind of concept. So how much power do the children have is what I want to know. How much power do the children have?
This is a tough question. This is a really, really tough question.
They might need some therapy, Dr. Cat.
So Koffe, if I can
quiet.
be
way too quiet.
No, if we can be totally honest, when we first started to date, we decided that we were going to date for 6 months before the children got involved. And as you know,
my Lord,
that didn't happen because we were married in 6 months.
Right.
So about 2 months in, 2.5 months in, I decided because of the structure of my family and with my children and my ex, that it would be easier to introduce my daughter to Deshawn first before I met her children. And here's why. We both have very sensitive exes. So
that's another show.
A whole different show. So
Dr. Kai, we're gonna wait up. We're gonna put that one on the back burner for another segment.
So for both of us, my daughter being so attached to me, it was absolutely important that she was accepting of the fact because she had never seen daddy with another woman other than her mother.
Oh, wow.
So it was absolutely, it would have been detrimental to us moving forward if she had not accepted the relationship. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. I told her that we were going out to lunch and to hang out with Daddy's new friend. And she said, Daddy, you got a girlfriend?
My Lord.
And, we had a conversation from Toledo to Detroit, about 45 minutes. And we had a conversation about it. And I never forget calling Deshaun as we were pulling up to the house and said, hey, we're 2 or 3 minutes away. Deshaun came out rather than us coming in, and something incredible happened. It was almost like God opened up heaven and a beam of light just shined down on Deshaun's house, because as I was opening the door for Deshaun to get in the car, my daughter jumps out of the back seat, runs to Deshaun, and embraces her.
Yeah.
She just wrapped her arms around her. And for the duration of that time, I think we went just hang out at the mall for, just a soft introduce to see how it was going to go. And she was glued to Deshaun, and has been from that day to this. There was no easing in period. She just embraced her. So in my case, my daughter had a lot of influence on the direction of the relationship, or watch this, she could have ended it. She could have ended the relationship, or she could have paused the relationship in kind of given a sense of direction in which it would go, because of the closeness that I have in the bond that I have with my daughter, and likewise with the 2 children that Deshaun brought into the relationship.
I think on my
side,
and I
let her share that.
My side is a bit different, because my children aren't as easy. It wasn't as easy with mine, and I knew going into it wouldn't be. And so at the start of it, I was more so like, yeah, let's wait it out. Let's see where this goes before I just bring you to the kids, then make it known to their dad and all of this. Not that there was still any relationship or mingled ties or anything like that. I knew where my children were emotionally and mentally as far as me and their dad in the divorce. We had been separated for 5-6 years. We had been divorced for about 5 or 6 years before me and Linwood met. And they are very much so attached to their dad, but they're also attached to me. So them seeing him come around, I know that it was going to kind of be a little, who is this? Let's see what he about. Let's feel him out, figure him out type thing with my children. It wasn't going to be, oh, give us a hug, Rainbow Dad, yay. No, it was kind of like, yeah, who you? Let's see what you about with mine. And that's why I'm kind of on the fence. I don't believe that children dictate a relationship. I don't believe that I would have necessarily ended it if there was a bit of strife there. However, I do take into consideration how they feel and their reasons why they may have said, Mom, I am not feeling him. I know my daughter is a bit sassy. So if she say, yeah, not him, if she say, yeah, not him, me and her have to have a conversation and let's see why. Because I've learned that children always have a reason why. If they're standoffish to an adult, or they're like, I don't want to be around this person, I don't want to talk to them, no. They sense things. So I want to talk through it and see what they sense. Maybe I need to ask more questions. Maybe I need to slow down. Maybe I need to pull back. That doesn't necessarily mean to let the relationship go, but let's slow down a bit. Let's explore this. Let's see what changes. And in the beginning, it was rough. I think even now, sometimes we still have some struggles when it comes to my children, because they're still learning loyalty, right? So they're trying to figure out the space where they can be loyal to their dad, love their dad, and still be friends and have loyalty and love Linwood as well. So we're still in that space, and we're 2 years in now, and they're still in that space. And part of that is dealing with the exes. You know, when everybody's not necessarily on the same page or as accepting as everyone moving on, it makes things a little bit harder. So I say you have to talk to the children, be open, be honest, have a conversation, and see what their concerns are, what the issues are. And it may just be children being children. They're clingy to their parents and they just want you to themselves. They're afraid of change and they don't want to see their family dynamic change. So I say have a conversation and see where it goes. It may not be worth throwing away, but who knows? You may find out something that the children seen all along and you may need to.
I like it. Jason, what is your thoughts on that? I know you have a blended situation as well, as far as your family is concerned. Talk to us about this. How much power do the children actually have?
I think it just depends on the parents, on how much power they allow their children to have. Because ultimately, a child, depending on their age, doesn't know anything. And I understand what was just said, that you want to be considerate of the child's feelings. But a lot of times, from what I've learned from my personal situations, I've never really had an issue with people, children like me. I've never had an issue with a child coming and saying, "Oh, I don't like him." But I think it's because of the approach. My approach is never to come in, "I'm your new daddy," or "I'm this dude, I'm this, I'm or that." It's just, "Hey, how you doing? What's your name? Meet you, you meet me." I treat the child just like I would treat a new adult. But I think sometimes children, especially with blended families, especially younger children always want to see their parents together. No matter how odd the relationship may be, younger children are always like, "Mommy and daddy can still get back together." And I think in the back of their minds, they're always hoping that happens. So when a new person comes in, a lot of times, I'm not gonna say all the time, but a lot of times it's a test. It's a test because they want to see, if they can keep you away long enough for mommy or daddy to kind of come back in, and then we're all a family again. Whether you were there from birth or not. Because I know my daughter was like that. She was just like, "Look, at some point you and my mom will get back together." And it was like, "Nah, it's not gonna happen." But she always had that in the back of her head. And it didn't matter who came. She wouldn't be rude, but she would always be kind of standoffish. And you would have to kind of break that down for her.
Like, I don't know you, you're not my mama.
Right. And that's literally what she was like. She was like, "Yeah, okay, he likes you. I don't know
you. Ain't my mama."
Right. Right. So for her, it was more of, you have to figure out a way to kind of break those walls. Because if I do it, it's just going to be temporary, because she's going to do it because I asked her, not because she wanted to. And I think a lot of times you just need to take that into consideration, especially when you're walking into a blended family. Everything ain't gonna be gravy. I've never asked a child to call me dad, father, whatever. Not until they wanted to. If they chose to, they chose to. My name is Jason on my birth certificate. It ain't dad, it ain't father, it's Jason. Call me Jason. I mean, Mr. Jason, if you're a young child, you know what I mean.
I was gonna say, I need you to clarify that for the audience, because we don't call nobody by their first name and their in the child's ministry. We don't do all that first name. Let me clarify for you
though, because honestly, I grew up in New York, and a lot of my adult, my parents' adult friends, there were no Mr. and Mrs. on it, and that's just the way we were. When we grew up in New York, we called you by your first name as a kid. Like my uncles, I didn't call them uncles till I was my uncle and aunts till I was in my 20s. So technically, just for the sake of clarity, not disrespect. Now there was a way to say it. You didn't just call.
I was gonna say. Yeah, right. I mean,
there was no Mr.
Y'all
Mrs.
may be Right. Y'all may not be on the Mr. and Mrs., but you're gonna come correct when you say my name.
Oh, for
Period.
sure,
It's not
for
gonna
sure.
be you're not gonna be sideways saying my name. Now don't get yourself busted in the eye. Please don't
Right.
do it. Please.
All day, every day.
Please.
Um, but
Please.
for kids, we really have to. You have to be sensitive, especially the new parent coming around someone else's kid. But also the parent with the child has to be cognizant of the fact that you know your child. You know what
Mhm.
your child is really doing or not doing, and be conscious of that.
Mhm.
Um, the only downside is it's hard to for you as the parent to, like I said earlier, to break that wall down. You as
Mhm.
a couple have to figure out a way to pull that child in without um I guess the best way to word it is without being too aggressive. You have to find that soft
Mhm.
spot and use that to get to that child's heart. And I'll just say that.
That makes sense. Dr. Kai, I'm listening to my people so far. How much concession are we making for these children, Dr. Kai? Talk to us. You still on mute, Doc?
No, I'm not on mute. What I was thinking was on mute.
Okay, you're not on mute now. Go ahead. Go ahead. You good now. Lord have
Okay.
mercy.
Okay, let me stop laughing. So you know, I love concessions. I love it when we give our young folks some space to have decision making. Um, Let me just throw it out this way because I think you'll get a little bit more understanding of who I am and why I'm going to answer the way I'm answering. Um, I was a single mother, and I can remember my parents saying to me, mind you, I was single at a point. Okay, I was married, and then all of a sudden one day I was single, um,
Mhm.
not by choice.
Okay.
um, so one day my parents said to me, you need to be mindful of what type of decisions you allow your children to make in your life. This is your life.
Mhm.
And I will never forget that statement because I knew growing up with two parents um, that there was a line drawn in the sand. I got
Mhm.
only so many decisions. And then at that point, it was no longer my decision. Carrying that forward with my children when I began to date, I had a conversation with them early on. Um, and they were young. And I said to them, Mom is going to date. So I'm going to be away for a little while and then we're going to come back. That's one. Two, you don't get to interface with the person that I'm dating until I've made a decision about whether or not they're going to be in your life for a period of time. I cannot promise
Mhm.
you they'll be there forever, but they will be there for a period of time. That's two. Three, my relationship with that person is private. You don't get to ask questions, but I do get to tell you what I want you to know. So those were the three things that were pillars when I dated. So when they did get to be introduced to individuals, this is Mr. So and so. There's no requirement that you call him dad. There's no requirement that you call him Mr. because in my household, my children called me Carlene. And I
Mhm.
always prepped the individual that I was dating. This is how I run my household. When they
Mhm.
interface with you, if you have a preference of a Mr. or your name, please let them know. They'll respect it. But in my household,
Mhm.
we don't do that. And I'm sort of like Jason. I grew up in an environment where we were allowed to call family members and friends that were older than us by their first name. So that's part of that other side. But they didn't get to have a say so on who stepped into my life. Um, Respect the fact that I'm going to select someone that I have faith in. Now, here's another thing. If I dated somebody and they were an issue, they never got to meet my children, and my children never got to meet
Period.
them.
Period. Right. Right.
So I think the other part of it is, though, as long as we are describing to our children what healthy relationships are and what dysfunctional relationships are, we're okay. It's when the parents don't have that conversation, right? Whether or not you're that strict parent or that liberal parent, it's when you don't have that conversation with your children, and or you treat your children like they're your friends. You're not my friend. I'm your parent. You were put on loan to me, and my book said I needed to raise you accordingly so that you can go out here and do what you needed to do in the kingdom of heaven. So you're going to respect all those things, right? But all families aren't like mine. All families aren't like mine. But I do advise families, whether single moms, single dads, you need to have relationship conversation with your children so that they understand, have an understanding of what a healthy relationship is and what a dysfunctional relationship is. And then we ourselves need to decide whether or not we're going to put our kids in a situation that's going to be a situation.
It makes sense.
So, I'm going to leave
It
you
makes
there.
a lot of sense. I love it. Lady Victoria, what happens when we have set these ground rules and we've got this structure, we got everything the way that we need it to be as a parent and a guide and a compass, and our child just simply does not like the person that we're with? How are we supposed to address that?
Well, I think Dr. Kai touched on a number of points that I was going to make. And I think a valid point for all parents to consider is, what was the status of your previous relationship that your children had a full view of before the divorce, the separation, death? There are a number of other factors that the child could be affected by in the household, and perhaps they are afraid that that same thing is going to happen again. So they always have a valid reason for their fear. And I think that it is the parents' exclusive job to do a thorough investigation of what their child is afraid of, why they feel the way they do, all of those things before there's even any interaction or even any talk about your dating. Sharing that information with your child. The age of the child matters as well. You might have minor children still living under your roof, but you have adult children that live somewhere else. So you have to consider the maturity level of those different age groups as well. And again, the adult child and the minor child needs to have their questions answered and their feelings validated. The other thing is the personality of the child. I have 4 children, and they all have 4 distinct personalities. Now, 1 and 3 are pretty similar, and 2 and 4 are pretty similar. But at the same time, I deal with each of them differently according to their personality and according to their capacity to handle whatever information I'm sharing with them at that time. So again, what was the state of the parents' relationship before they were in a situation, whether they were married, divorced, separated, death in the family, a parent that's incarcerated, a child in the home that was abused? They might be happy that their abuser is no longer there. And they may be open and welcome to someone else that they feel like won't put them in harm's way, won't pose a danger or a threat to them
or
to
or
their
they
mother.
might not, or the other side of that would be that they don't want nobody around for fear of
Exactly.
what could happen to them.
Exactly. Yes, because they don't want to put a repeat performance
Right.
of what had been going on. So
Right.
I think that it is a very delicate situation. And
Mhm.
again, I think we need to explore personality of the child, the age of the child, the state of the home and the environment that the child was living in. And now they're faced with perhaps another person coming in, even if they aren't living there, even if it's just someone that you're dating, you decided, well, you dated them for 6 months, 9 months, whatever it was, and now you feel that it's safe to introduce them to your child.
Mhm.
Consider all of those elements before we bring another person into the individual. And it's not giving over control to the child, but it's a
Mhm.
protective measure for your child. Because you bring someone in and they're one way with you, and then they come in and they crazy with your
Yeah.
children, and they're
Yeah.
in your home, then you just open up another whole can of worms. So I don't think we should give power to the children, but I think we definitely should investigate, like I said, validate their feelings before we share information.
That's good. So let's go on to another question. And anybody can chime in on this one. We all know that Steve Harvey did that book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. And in that publication, he kind of talks about the ideology. And I've heard this before, especially when I first started coaching, that sooner than later for the introductions with the children, regardless of their age. What is your position on that? What are your thoughts about that? Because the philosophy behind it is I've invested 3 6 months with this person. We've built this crazy amazing rapport. We're harmonious, we're in sync, and then now here comes the introduction with the children, and it's just chaos and calamity. But I've invested all this energy into this person, and I don't want to be without the person, but there's this huge wedge between them and my children. What's your thought about that timing? Anybody can chime in.
I want to just dive right in, Coffee, because when you're intentional with the person that you're involved with, you want to love every ounce of that person. There's no way going into this marriage and in this engagement that I desire with Deshaun that I had to see the full picture. And watch this. The full picture wasn't all that pretty,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
it was so beautiful um, in the way God presented it. Even the challenges were worth it to me. Going in and meeting the children, because like we said, we had said it was going to be 6 months. It wound up being like 2.5 months before the children were introduced. And we took a different approach with her children than we did with my daughter. I met her children at a community event her mom was doing.
mhm,
And to this day, I would say I have a stronger relationship with them than I had then. But to this day, our 10-year-old of Isaiah, uh, she has hot and cold moments. She has hot and cold moments. And I thank God that we didn't wait 6 months, because watch this, that put her on the back burner for 6 months too.
Mhm.
That put
That's
her on.
that is yeah,
we
that's a
would
good thought.
we would have been 6 months involved, six
Mhm,
months invested.
mhm,
And this baby sitting over here not even knowing what Mama and Linwood doing.
right.
And we are delving deeper into a relationship that has intention.
Mhm,
That intentionality was our focus. Look, we're not dating to be dating. We're not placeholders. You are my future wife. I'm your future husband. We're building this idea of life together, and that life involved three minor children.
mhm.
So in that, as Lady Victoria said, I had two adult children as well, and three grandchildren. So, and when
Y'all got a lot of people over there at the church, Linwood. My God.
listen, I've been daddy since I listen, I've been daddy since I was 16 years old.
My Lord.
And my granddaughter Coffee, when she first met Deshaun,
She's the rebel. She like,
she was the one that wasn't even the children. It was my oldest granddaughter. My oldest granddaughter said, "Big Daddy, what you doing with that young girl?"
My Lord.
Sure did.
Yeah. She was, I think Manaya was at the time, she was 10.
I think.
She was 10 because she's about to be 13. Well, she just turned 13. And she said, Big Daddy, what you doing with that young girl? And I said, I now had to say, Manaya, that's an adult. That's now mind you, another sidebar for another show that you'll invite me for in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Deshaun is only 8 years older than my oldest daughter.
Oh, mighty Christ.
So there were so many different dynamics involved in blending this family. Mm-hmm. That it wasn't just the children, but we were dealing with grandchildren issues and all these kind of different issues. But I think that introducing everyone in the timing that we did gave them time to understand how serious we were about being with each other. Mm-hmm. Because you got to understand, after the children being introduced at 2.5 months, 3.5 months later, we were married. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we the way we moved, we didn't have a choice but to introduce the children and the grandchildren into our lives because of the intentionality that we had toward one another.
Yeah. And I think moving in, me personally, I was the one that's like, yeah, let's wait, let's ease them into it. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking more so of, I know where my children were, right? Even though me and their dad had been separated for a while, there was a lot of strife, turmoil, moral drama, and they were still dealing with a lot with the separation and being, pulled one way and not knowing, where to go, what to do, who should I talk to, who do I like, can you do that? My dad said, so it was a lot that went along with it, with dealing with my children versus, his daughter who had never seen him with anybody else, right? That it was pretty much a clean break. They were done. It was over with. Where on the other side, I was dealing with a whole lot more. So me wanting to kind of slow it down some was because I was thinking of them and not trying to put too much on them. And like he said, even now, my daughter still has hot and cold moments where like she's good and he's her best friend. Like they run around the house like kids and I'm screaming. And then there's days like she may have been with her dad for a few days and she come home and it's like, okay, we got to warm up again. Mm-hmm. And I try to explain it to him because I don't take it personal. She does it to me too. It's just something about when she goes there and comes back.
Right.
To get back into the route, even with school, get her back into a school routine, get her back into, hey, you don't do that here, do that there, those type of things. So it's nothing personal. She's just really still adapting to this new life. It's taking her longer to understand that mommy and daddy are divorced. We will never be together again. This is your new normal. Mm-hmm. And so while he didn't really have that adjustment period or that much of an adjustment period with his daughter, it's been more and it's been harder with my kids. So
and that makes sense because there's two different lifestyles that your children are experiencing. And there's not, and sound based on what you guys are saying, there is no similarities to the lives.
Oh no.
No.
Because
our marriage is a definition of work.
Yeah. And the other part of that is, when I went through my divorce, my daughter was with me. She was originally with me. So that bond was built, that there was a trust that I believe, even though she was youngest, and she's the youngest child in the marriage now, being that she had been with dad and only been with mom on weekends until just before Deshaun came into my life, I believe that even though she hadn't seen me with another woman, there was a trust that I wouldn't bring anyone around that didn't have her best interests at heart. Mm-hmm. So, that there was a different mindset. And, Deshaun, all of our children are spoiled.
Rotten.
Like rotten. All of them. All my biological, her they're all just rotten. So the just bringing them in sooner, Coffee, I believe, has helped us sustain healthy relationships
Yeah.
with them
Mhm.
because they didn't feel a sense of we were hiding anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They and in my conversations with God knows I'll be glad when this boy is grown and on his own. But it her son, in having very candid personal conversations with him, he appreciated the fact that he was, brought into the loop. He had questions and I answered them. He even now, when we laugh and joke about things, he asks, "How long have you been around? How much do you know about my upbringing?" Because just certain things, and I'm sure Pastor Jason will be able to attest to this. When you're dealing with a male child and you're
Mhm.
bonding with a male child that is not yours,
Mhm. Mhm.
just simple things that you can say as a man
Mhm.
that he might be able to relate to, and not trying to father him, but just
Right.
mentoring him in
Just
space.
masculine, period. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Then it brings, as an adolescent, it brings to question, well, how much do you know about me since you know so much about this situation?
Mhm.
And I have to sit down with him and talk to him about, life, and let him know that this is not because I was your mom's sneaky link and I know who you are as a child, because that's
Mhm.
not the case.
Mhm.
It's just I know these things just because I have been where you are. I've been 16.
Mhm.
I've been 17. And
Mhm.
and I think that has been what has helped us cultivate a relationship even outside of our marriage. So bringing him in early, talking to him, being honest with him, letting him know that he's a part of the relationship actually helped me develop a relationship with him.
And I think another
That's
big
good.
part for us, and I'm gonna release the mic, um, is that they see a healthy relationship with me and Linwood. And my kids came out of a marriage that was a mess. It was very unhealthy. It was toxic. It was everything that a relationship, a marriage should not be. So now, having experienced that, and now seeing us together and how we move and how we operate and the dynamic of our relationship in our life now, they honestly appreciate who he is to us. They appreciate him being in our life. They appreciate, that he's there and he is the man that he is, and the example that they have now. They have questions about relationship. And, Mom, why do you do this? Why do you always go live with something to drink? That's my daughter.
Mhm.
He always fix his plate. Yeah. So now I'm explaining things to her
Mhm.
as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, these things that she didn't necessarily, then she wasn't really old enough, but she didn't see happen. She didn't
Mhm.
really see that healthy dynamic. So that opens up a lot of questions as well. And it helps the situation because they see the difference.
And Dr. Kai, you brought up a point about a great point actually about us as adults being whole, being totally healthy before we start, building these bonds with other people that we choose to be in relationships. Um, when you said that, that plays another role in as far as the children are concerned too. So I know that you've done some coaching and you've given some guidance to individuals over the years when it came to relationships and things like that. Is it necessarily a bad idea to go ahead and wait and build a rapport with that person before bringing the children? Is that necessarily a bad thing?
So there, okay. In the book of life, there is no right or wrong, right? We
Right.
have
Right.
experiences. Um, and you've just got to know yourself, and you've got to know your partner, you've got to know your children. And it's a balancing act, right? And my suggestion has always been, you've got to know whether or not it's a half teaspoon of sugar or whole cup of sugar that
Mhm.
you're going to add to the mix. Um, and children, especially because they're delicate,
Mhm.
right? And most parents, none of us have been through classes to be a parent.
No.
We, as my grandmother would say, we understand what the good book says, but when you're in the mix of lifing with your children, you don't always have that. I got to do it this way,
Mhm.
and it's got to be perfect. I would say to most families, whether or not you're a single parent or a full range of different dynamics for parenting, I would say take your time and getting to know your partner because you already know your child.
Mhm.
It's more important that you get to know a partner. And why? You know why. We've got so many dysfunctional relationships out
Right.
here,
Right.
and people getting into a situation where that significant other is not good with the child,
Mhm.
or so many other things are being brought to the table that it becomes a situation. And I'm going to keep bringing that word up. It becomes a situation, right? So as long as we're whole, because a lot of times people rush from one relationship and into another without being whole, right? And there's no time frame on how long it takes you to become whole, but there are moments that you know whether or not you are whole or not.
Mhm.
There's a difference between loving and longing for a person,
Mhm. That's a fact.
and and the adult has to be able to understand that and explain that to the children so
Mhm.
that they can see what the difference is, right? And they may not ever get to see you longing for a person, or they may, depending on where you are in your wholeness or lack thereof,
Mhm.
right? So there's a lot that goes into that. And so my wish and my prayer for those out there who are watching us is that you find yourself in a place of wholeness. If you're not, don't dare entertain a person to take it to the next level. It's okay to date and you're not whole, but make sure you're finding your way to wholeness.
Mhm.
And you need to be respectful and allow other people to know that you're not whole,
Mhm.
right? Hurt people. So you need to figure out how you're going to get to wholeness. You're going to have to talk to your significant others or soon to be significant others about the strategy to get you there.
Mhm.
Um, and then, and only then, do you think about introducing your precious babies, and whether or not they're adults or children.
Mhm.
If you weren't whole, as my sister said beforehand, if
Mhm.
that relationship wasn't a good relationship and they never found healing, it's coming with them, just like your issues are coming with the relationship too.
Mhm.
It's a bomb. It's not even a bad mixture of a salad. It's a bomb, right?
Mhm.
It's going to explode. So we need to. I know all of us here wish for wholeness for everybody
Absolutely.
out there, but you need to be whole before you start introducing things.
That's good stuff. Jason, so Linwood brought up a really, really solid point about that male bonding. You know, when a man comes into a lady's life and she has a son, and you know there's this testosterone challenge that is going to arise. Period. It's going to manifest whether you want it to or not. I don't care if you're a tiny human or a grown guy. It's going to be some headbutting. So with that, if you find that headbutting persists, what are some avenues that a guy could take if he really believes that this woman is supposed to be in his life? What are some solid avenues that he could take in order to build a rapport? It may not never even turn into a friendship with the son. It may never get that far. It may just have to be cordial rapport. But what are some strong strategies that could help a guy to overcome the objection of, of, hey, you talking to my mama?
Um, well, my stepson initially did never felt me. The first time he met me, he was playing a video game and he's just like, "Hey, went back to the game. And over time, for me, what I did was I just kept coming around. I said, "Hey, what you playing?" "Oh, I'm playing 2K. All right, you think you could beat me?" So I joined in with what he was into. Then, as Linwood said, there were times he would be going through stuff, especially like with his dad at the time. I could explain stuff, like Linwood said, about how he felt. And he was like, "How do you know?" I said, "Dude, I used to be you." I said, "There's a lot of things I can tell you just from being a man, period. Growing up as a kid, I used to be your age. So I know exactly how you think." And I would always do that. I would always tell him how he was thinking about a situation while he was going through it. And I think that broke down a lot of walls, because he felt like I wasn't in it just for his mom and didn't care about him. Because a lot of times guys get in it, it was like, look, it may be a package deal, but you're the only package I'm concerned about. And the reality is you have to be sensitive as the incoming parent to a child, that child, that's their mama. There were a lot of things his mother would do that I wouldn't do to him. She could yell, scream, and holler, and da 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 da. I'd be like, "Look, come here, let me talk to you for a second. Now, you know your mother said this. You know your mother said this. Why don't you just listen? So you don't have to hear all of that." But the reason I was completely the opposite was because I wanted him to see that you get to pick and choose the type of adult you choose to be. Your environment, we are all products of our environment, but your environment doesn't, in its totality, dictate who you are. And it got to a point where his mom is like, "Oh my God, he acts just like you." And I could tell her, I said, honestly, it's not that he acts like me. He's becoming a man. And you need to separate the two. He's not being me. He's being the man in him. But because I was trying to show him a solid man, he just followed the same steps. Because he saw, I don't have to be this. I don't have to be this way. I can be exactly what I see. I don't have to let my emotions take control of me. Because initially he was like that. No disrespect to any woman, but a single woman raising a boy, sometimes the boys end up a little bit emotional because that's all they know.
Right.
When they get around a man that's just like, "Calm down, relax. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through that." And you can start seeing the boys like, okay, I see a little difference. And even female children will see the difference. And understand that the man doesn't have to be boisterous. He doesn't have to be, "I'm the man of the house." Blah, blah, blah. He can be the calm, cool cat and be in the house and be like, "Look, this is what we're gonna do. Everything's gonna be all right, no matter what the situations are." But you have to be willing to see it for what it really is, and don't ignore it as child just being a child. No, you have to really be a parent, even for a child that's not yours. And sometimes that's hard, especially for a man. Because I know for me, I wasn't spending a whole lot of time because of the dynamics between my son's mom and me. So spending a lot of time with him was cool, my stepson. But on the inside, I was still hurting because I wasn't able to spend time with my own son. So it was hard because it was like, I wish I could do this with my son, but I can't. But I can't just ignore him because I can't do that with my son.
Right.
So that's a hell of a toss-up that sometimes women don't see that a man has to go through, especially if you have kids outside of the relationship. You don't see the man on the inside because most of us, we strong. We gonna stand up and just do whatever. We gonna deal with our issues. But the reality is, for a man that has a son to have to take care of your son, and not saying that the other father may not be involved, but if we're in the household together, it's tough because my mind still is like, man, I have to rear this child the way I would rear my own. But at the same time, I don't have the privilege to rear my own if you're in that dynamic, which I was.
That's good.
Koffe,
Lady
can I?
Victoria, we can let me let Victoria hop in, Linwood, quickly. Jason, thank you for that. Lady Victoria, I know with you doing your coaching. Oh, she just got hit out. Go ahead, Linwood. She just got
I just wanted to share one thing that Jason said that was very pivotal to me developing a relationship with my stepson. He just got his driver's license a couple of months ago, and we gave him a car. We gave him one of my old cars, and when we gave him the car, I had an opportunity to sit down with him and not only talk about the responsibility of having the car, but I let him know that when my oldest son, who is now an adult, was your age, I didn't get a chance to do this for him because of the relationship with my ex-wife. She didn't allow him to accept it at that time. So this is something special that I'm doing for you that I didn't get to do. Don't mess this up. It gave me an opportunity to step in as a parent and to parallel another relationship that was important to me, to let him know how important he was to me as well. And it's those little nuances that you're able to establish in relationship with stepchildren that help bring, the dynamics of the relationship even closer to what you want it to be.
That's good. That's good. Lady Victoria, I know you kind of, the screen kind of went blank on you for a second, but I just wanted to kind of get from you from in the coaching space, as you've done coaching and help with issues like this in real life and in real time. As we head out for tonight, what are your thoughts about the topic overall as it pertains to the timing aspect of connecting the dots for the adults to connect the children into the partnership? What are some recommendations or some suggestions you want to give on our way out for tonight? We've got about 5 more minutes in the hot seat.
Sure. Yes, I think it is really, you have to make timing a priority. Timing is everything. And only you, the parent, know the heart of your child. Now, you're trying to build a new relationship, but I also strongly suggest that you weigh the scales carefully of who you're going to prioritize first, your new relationship or your children. And I think that is key. It is essential that you weigh that out carefully. And just real quick, you were talking about that, and I was thinking this whole time, would I share this information in my mentoring space? I have a mentoring program for preteens and teenage young girls. And I had the opportunity just yesterday to unexpectedly spend hours. What was supposed to be a 20-minute talk ended up being over 2 hours of talking with a young lady, a teenager, that is just in this space where the absent parent, her dad, isn't in the picture the way she wants him to, but her having walked alongside him in his personal journey for new relationships for years. And she was there to see too many things that she should not have seen and to experience too many things that she should not have experienced. And those were her own words. So we have to prioritize our children. A new relationship is great. It's great to come into that headspace, but I think timing is essential, and weigh the scales heavily as to who you prioritize first, the new person in your life or your children. Those are my final thoughts. Thank you, Koffe.
Awesome. That's what's up. Well, we are literally at the top of the hour. It is now 8:56. So we're going to have a 30-minute rapid round for closing thoughts and ideas as we head out for the evening. Thank you to all of our panelists. Phenomenal conversation tonight. Super excited that you all accepted the invitation to come on. I knew we were going to get some great feedback and some solid information on how we can forge forward relationally and still have everything intact, the love we want and the lasting relationship, healthy relationship with our family. So Dr. Kama, yield over to you. We're going to do some 30-second quick suggestions and thoughts as we head out for tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the statement I made a little bit earlier. I think that you need to ensure that you are whole. Um, if not in the midst of your dating, um, into a permanent relationship. Um, it is so important to make sure that you're whole. It is important to make sure the individual that you're dealing with is whole or in their walk to wholeness. And then, as Lady Victoria said, you got to make sure you prioritize which one comes first. And quite often, some of us may say, my kids come first. Some will say, my significant other comes first. But make sure that you are in a whole place and a healthy place so that you can make the appropriate decision for prioritizing which one comes first. And with that, I'm going to yield back to you.
That's good. That's good. Jason?
For me, I'll just say, know who you are, know where you are, and know where you're going. Uh, because when you know those three things, it makes it a little bit easier to deal with the obstacles. Because you don't let external things from who you are, where you're going, um, but they can affect where you are. Because sometimes you have to make the decision of where I am may not be the place I need to be. Um, but you need to know those things before you get into a situation, especially with blended families. Um, and just be cognizant of those things. Everything will be all right.
Awesome. I love it. Linwood and Deshawn?
I'm gonna say, relationship in every relationship, communication is key. And with a blended family, you're dealing with multiple people, multiple personalities, and with children, they want to be included. They want to feel loved. They don't want to feel like you found your significant other and they're forgotten about. So I believe communication and inclusion is key when you're creating a blended family.
I love it. Linwood?
Bump them kids. No, we love the babies.
all this.
Y'all always think it's me. It be him.
Listen,
We done did all this. We done sat here, had a full counseling session. Then he says, bump the children. Lord.
no,
Why, Dr. Kyle? Why?
no,
My Lord.
I totally agree with my wife. You have to consider the children, and I believe that communication and introducing them at the perfect time, and being honest with them, not sugarcoating anything, but communicating with them on their level is pivotal to the success of the relationship.
Absolutely. And last, my final toxic thought for tonight, people come and go, but guess what? Those children gonna be with you for the rest of your life. So choose wisely. Choose very, very wisely. With that being said, thank you guys for hopping in, hanging out with us on tonight. We appreciate seeing everybody in the building with us tonight. We'll see you guys again next week on another edition of the Hot Seat. Until then, grace, peace, and blessings. And we'll see you guys. Good night, everybody. And thank you to all of our fantastic panelists. We'll see you guys again soon.